it down.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Time is Right podcast. This is Scott Smith, and you are here on the Time is Ripe. It's a podcast of Ripe Creatives. We are a ministry based out of the great city of Philadelphia, and we do a lot of different things here in the city, centering around the arts and missions, trying to make much of who Jesus is in the city. And we have a creative community with a lot of different people that do a lot of different things. But today, we have a super special episode because we have a whole bunch of people that all share the same discipline of artistry. And we're going to be talking about something really dear to our hearts that's become a part of the fabric of the Ripe community. And that is Two Lines Philly. We are here with the poets. Mr. Greg Snow is back on the pod.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Free the poets.
Mr. Free the Poets himself. We also got Mr. AVG back on the microphone.
What's good, yo?
My man is asleep. We also got Sergine, first timer to the podcast.
Hey, y'all. What's up?
Oh, my
Surged
goodness. Listen, we've been talking about Sergine on a lot of different episodes for the better part of a year. And this is the first time she is on the Time is Right podcast. So welcome, Sergine. Can you just give a little bit of context? And when we have a first timer on the pod, they just share a little intro, who you are, what you do, how you got connected to Ripe.
Okay, so I don't have a slogan. My name is Sergine. That is 2 syllables. Aside from that, what can I say? Well, we're part of a collective of poets. I happen to meet Scott, and he's been a mutual friend of mine for like close to 10 years. And this just kind of organically came together. I've been writing spoken word for some time now, and just allowing God to use this gift in order to like reach and make impact. And that's just kind of what I'm about.
Amen.
And I'm from Brooklyn. Shout out to Brooklyn.
Yeah, she's apparently not from Philly.
I'm not from Jersey.
I don't know how I thought she was from Jersey. She got very offended. I just learned this. But she's from New York.
New York.
But she lives in Philly area with the rest of us. And yeah, God's been doing a cool thing. A big through line for the Ripe Poetry community has been this event called Two Lines.
Yeah.
And the episode tonight is going to center on a specific two lines that happened on Friday, April 14th. And that was, the April is the month of poetry.
Yes,
it's National Poetry Month. And what better way to celebrate Two Lines than by featuring one of the GOATs, Sergine, as the feature at Two Lines Spoken Word Showcase event. Greg and AVG, can you guys just jump in for a second and give a little bit of context for Two Lines? I know we did this on the Busboys and Poets episode, but this is a new episode people might not know. So share about Two Lines, please.
Yeah, hey, Two Lines is a poetry platform that has been going on since August of 2021, and we exist to free the poets. We want to see people free to express themselves, to grow in their poetic journey, and also we want to see people free in Christ. So the way we do that is we have an open mic that does not censor, and we welcome everybody. If you're a believer, if you're not a believer, if you're a poet, not a poet, we want you to come and be free. And that's what we do at Two Lines.
It's beautiful. ABG, anything to add?
Yeah. One of the things that's been special about Two Lines is the fact that it was an idea that has now sprouted into something really, really tangible and useful for ministry. People have stepped into the space and been like, oh man, like I feel like it's church here and I'm not even at church. And that's been really special because it's not like we've intentionally tried to set up that vibe, but it's just been a number of people, Sergine, you, Scott, for example, who have helped to create that atmosphere just from a very like authentic place. And so that's been beautiful for us.
Yeah, everybody's welcome. Come as you are.
For sure.
And I think it's been cool, similar to how we do Creatives Philly events. You guys have been super intentional with a lot of the features that you choose. And so I got to feature in January. There's a young lady actually in the room as we're recording named Cookie B, who was the feature back in November. Jaylene Clark Owens was the feature in December. Very good friend of ours. And then I believe in February, it was Jay La, Misspoken Poet, who we've talked about on this podcast. I don't remember who it was in March.
T Sleeveless.
T Sleeveless in March. April was Sergine. So out of the last like 7 months, there's been like 6 pretty, overtly Christian, love Jesus spoken word artists, walking with him, trying to make much of who he is in the earth as the features at Two Lines. And when you're featured, you get a lot more time on the microphone, right? You're not just doing one piece and then going to sitting down. You get 15, 20 minutes to curate a set that allows you to share your story, share your testimony, and be a light and impact people. And so, yeah, this night in April was like after a bunch of other poetry features month after month. They Love Jesus. And then coming into April, National Poetry Month, it was a big show. Everybody was excited to go. April 14th, we're vibing, ready to go to Two Lines to support Sergine. Talk to me about the night of the event itself, and then we'll get to Sergine about her set.
Yeah, so our April show was really awesome. There were a couple of key moments that were particularly great. AVG, do you remember some specific poets that we can think of that were just like amazing?
Yeah, I think Anne Marie is her name. She had just popped up for the first time, actually. And she had spoken about, just before she'd gone on, just how much this space was so loving and family oriented. And that's something, like, that's one of our values in a Two Line space, is that this feels like family. And we had actually that night, we had this thing where we, if somebody jumps on for the first time, or we just feel like welcoming them into the space, we'll have the whole audience join us in saying, welcome to the family. And we'd done that for her after she did an amazing job with her set, which was, I shouldn't say set, with her piece. Another special one was Void Banks, who I think several months before had mentioned that he just started writing. And what he had told me is that he'd seen Two Lines a while back and was like, I got to get ready to be here and perform. And for him to recognize that, this is another thing that's really special about Two Lines and how we've crafted it. We just see us as kind of like a stepping stone for people to be here, develop themselves, become comfortable with performing, be encouraged, and then go on to do VIP in some of these other spaces. They're maybe a little more established. And so he did his piece. I mean, blew it out of the water. Everybody was just floored. And then a little bit after, we had decided to bring him back and welcome him to the family. And he just spoke about how that was extremely special for him to, feel very reserved while he was sitting down, very nervous before he'd gone up, and just be welcomed in such a special way.
Yeah, was that the same guy we went out to eat with after?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll save that
for the end. But
that's crazy. I remember that moment. That was super, super powerful. Yeah. I mean, it's just beautiful because we are weird people. I'll just be honest. I'll speak for myself. I'm a poet. Mm-hmm. I love the craft of spoken word. And we can be in our heads a lot. Mm-hmm. We have a high tendency to be insecure, to be, anxious, to be down, to be thinking about things very deeply and get overwhelmed with those thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so imagine a room with 50 of those people, right, all together in a space. There's a lot. It's like a cartoon show, in some ways, because there's so many different personalities. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Two Lines, is that it is safe for everybody. Yeah. Genuinely. Definitely. People are coming in and they're expressing, man, I almost didn't make it here this week. Not I didn't show up. I didn't make it to life.
Yeah.
24 hours ago, I tried.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking about trying to take my own life, and I'm here now. And that breath through the air, yes, and that moment of, let's take a pause and acknowledge your life and speak value over the life that you have. Mm-hmm. Thank you for still being here. Mm-hmm. That's Two Lines.
Yeah.
It's funny, and there's a lot of crazy things that happen, but there's also a lot of life affirming,
yes,
things that happen in that space for people who desperately need it.
Yes.
And that young man, you could just tell, oh, God's breathing on this moment. Mm-hmm. When you guys did the welcome to the family for him, yes, that was breakthrough for him.
Oh, yes.
He needed to hear that he was welcomed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember even with that, a guy by the name of Hanak Solomon, yeah, he mentioned who then would go on to be our feature in May. He mentioned just watching that happen watching Void Banks be so nervous and then so loved and welcomed just like opened his heart even as a longtime poet. So we just had the ability to reach people like there's another lady that was in the room, a glowing poet who been doing it for a long time, but getting to see something different.
Yes.
And seeing that like from her, like just like, hey, I love this. This was so amazing. Thank you. Like, I just want to be clear. This is nothing that we doctrine up. Like, I don't get up there and I don't have a cue card that says, now I make people feel good.
Facts.
No, we just let God move. And we just do that through us. We open ourselves up as vessels and bring all of ourselves, our quirkiness, our funny stuff, our personality, but also the times where we need to be real. Because poetry is a place where you can have one poem joking about their ex, the next poem risking their life, and the next poem being a love poem. And it's just like, in a space, you have to be able to navigate that. And if you're trying to bring it back to Jesus, that requires to lean on the Holy Spirit and not try to control anything.
So good. So good. I remember, I think this was one of the first 2 lines. I just literally showed up just to support and was forced to perform by my lovely co-hosts on this podcast, Greg and AVG. They tend to be like, hey, do you want to do a poem? So
When you got Scott Smith in the room, you don't want him just sitting down. Just saying.
Sometimes that's the best thing.
That's true.
But I remember I was so much more, just adept and aware at what was happening in the space in light of, like, I didn't have that little bit of nervousness or anxiety about going up next or when am I up? When am I up? Like, I just was enjoying it. And it was just so fun for me to, like, see all the different features from the last few months and the features for the next couple of months, all in the same room together. I remember taking a picture with T Sleeveless and Jayla and like getting to have that, like, man, like this is a little powerhouse kind of photo with these people. I want to get my picture with them because they're going to be famous, and, I'm going to get it now whenever they're still accessible, but so talented. And that's the beauty of it is you have that depth and level of talent that's just like, wow, these people blow my mind. And then you in the same room, without any ounce of comparison, you have people who it's their first time ever. And it's because of the culture, which obviously we carry that together, like in terms of creatives, 2 lines, we're all like that, where we want everybody to be celebrated. And in that space, it's actually real, right? It doesn't have that, oh, you're not good enough vibes. And I think that's so special, and it makes the palette for the feature who's going to kill it that much more sweet. Because it's not just about how amazing they are in their gift, it's about who they are as a person. And so I just remember getting to the actual feature set, and Sergine's about to walk up on stage and kill it, as she always does. But the room, like, before you even said a word, the room was on fire. Like, it's so encouraging of a space that it doesn't matter if you did 30 seconds of one piece, people would have been blessed by it because everybody was ready for you. Because you meant so much to that space already. It's just like a weird, it's not a normal space. And it's special. And, it was beautiful to be a part of it. I would love for you to share from your perspective, like going up, and then you guys can add in as well, like, for sure.
What I did think was, like you said, that point of like poets being in their head. I just remember having this moment of like, okay, like I know I can do this. I know how I can deliver. I know what I'm bringing to the table, and I know what you gave me, God. And I remember just driving in the car, like, all right, but how is this going to be received? And I'm like, I've done this so many times. Why am I even questioning it right now? Right? Like, I know these people, right? Like, Greg is someone I know, AVG is someone I know, Scott is someone I know, and even then I still felt like sensitive to it, like you said, right? As a poet, being in your head, like the overthinking sometimes, right? And man, I just watched the different poets like some of them new to it, just developing and just trying to share what's on their heart. And I think the one thing that I took away was authenticity. It was very authentic. And by the time things were moving up towards me, it was almost like God was just orchestrating things where Jayla went up. No, it was a glowing poet, right? She went up, then Jayla went up, and I was like, yes, God, you just paved the way. Like, now give me room. Now I can do what I do. Like, I almost got a little hype. Like, all right, now we going. Here, all right, I see what you're doing. Like, it was almost like a build up, and I had to even shout them out in the room, like, hey, I just appreciate y'all because y'all created this space for me to do this in a way where I felt like people were ready to hear. And that to me just stuck out more than anything. And I think in that, I was able to just kind of like go in my own authenticity, right? Like I didn't feel like, I was like, I'm not going to do this scripted. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to talk a little bit, share what's on my heart as far as what inspired these pieces, where I was, my mindset, where I am now in comparison to where I wrote it. And I felt like that resonated. And even being able to hear, I think it was Hanak, right? I talked to him maybe like after he did his feature, and he was like, yo, thank you for the piece you did. And it was a piece I did for women, which was interesting, but it was more about like making room and creating this new space and God putting you in a different season. And he was like, yo, that resonated with me. And that was the first time I ever did that piece like in an audience, an open mic. And so it was like, okay, like even that was received. And so that was really encouraging for me, because it was like, even though like I know y'all like affectionately call me the GOAT and everything, but I still feel like I have room to grow and develop. And so being able to share a newer piece and felt like, oh, this is still received, like that's dope. I guess developing in my own way. I thought like it was like, yo, there's really room for everybody in their different spaces to own their craft and be authentic about it. And that's really what I love about Two Lines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What did you guys feel?
Sergine, would you give us a little more context about the room, specifically the audience of your friends that came out, and
Dude,
what
this is cool.
impact
Shout out
that
to
made
my
on our event?
Yes.
Man, shout out to my squad. Y'all know who y'all are. I love y'all. This was actually the first time I've ever had a group of my friends at an open mic. So this was like new for me to even be open enough to be like, hey guys, like I'm doing this. This is a feature. So I was excited. And
Will you come support?
Like, but honestly, for them, it was a no-brainer. It was like, what? Like, of course. So, but I love the fact that they showed love to everybody else in the room.
Yes.
And they saw the ministry in that, because all of them I've met in my church. Shout out to Change Church, out in Ewing. But, so I think with them, they came with a heart ready to receive. They like love spoken word and all that other stuff. So I think for them, like, it's so funny because when we went out afterwards, man, like it was like, yo, Jayla, like what's her name? Misspoken poet. Like they were talking about her bars and they remember her lines. Like they were snapping. It was hilarious. I was like, y'all embarrassing. I was trying to get y'all to sit in the back, but they chose us in the front.
That was so good. That was so good.
They got the front row on lock anytime they want.
Their energy is on 1,000, which is what I loved. And I think it wasn't just the energy they had for me. It was like they saw the talent in the room and they spoke to that and they encouraged and they clapped. And, you know, they saw all the different poets and their crafts. And I think they were still encouraging. And even then, when, you know, you have that moment where they kind of break out and have conversations. I know there were several of my friends that had conversations with other people and were like, just kind of like, you know, I forget what was it about? Community what was the question? I don't remember.
It was something about community, and I remember we were talking deeply.
Yes.
Remember, it was a deep question. So what we do is at kind of like a break after our feature set, we have a time where people break out and we give them a question to talk with one person that they don't know that well, and just kind of get to know them and ask a question to them and answer and kind of give a little more of themselves. I can't remember the question. Jake, who is our guy that does the questions, he did a great job, because I remember I just had a deep conversation and with one of your friends, Sergine, and there was so many people that were doing that. And that's something that is unique to us that I think even just having your group in there, like the biggest thing that I'm like people are like, what do you need? Like for Two Lines, what do you need? Is we need people
Yes.
with the heart of God to just
Yeah.
step in the room
Yeah.
and just be there
Yes.
and be supportive.
Yes.
Because the difference that it made at your feature was astronomical.
Exactly.
And everybody just felt that energy from the crowd. They felt loved by the people. And then they actually got to connect with many of them in the breakout session
Absolutely.
to get to know, okay, these people are the real deal and they know Jesus and they love Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know Jesus. Maybe I have a bad relationship with the church or something else, but this person is loving me right now. I can't
Exactly.
deny that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to jump
So
in
good.
really quick.
Yeah.
That kind of like church atmosphere that I referenced way back, it happened one other time. And I have to give a shout out. Mary Mance is the person who was like, yo, I felt like I was at church tonight. And so again, just gotta like make this ask and request, like anybody who's hearing this, it makes a huge difference. Like you don't even have to be a poet. Like if you love Jesus and you want to be in a space to love people, like show up, because it shifts the atmosphere. The more people we have who want to be missional in these kind of like third unchurched, I guess let me not say unchurched, but like third spaces.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference for people.
Yep.
That's real.
Yes. This is very encouraging for me to hear you people speaking language that I love and adore so much. I mean, I've been preaching this stuff for many years, but it's such a cool thing to see Two Lines just stepping into being a third space that really goes after people, and there's always a need for more. The harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. You can say that about Two Lines.
Yes.
The harvest is genuinely plentiful, and it's not to say you're trying to figure out how to get this person to get on their knees and cry and repent and believe in Jesus that night.
Yeah.
Because that's up to the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
We might hold down one of the tolls. We are not the road itself. And unless you believe you saved yourself, then you cannot believe that you can save somebody else. That idea, that concept that we hold down one of the tolls. We're the place of like, hey, keep going. Hey, take the next exit.
Yeah.
Hey, I think your tire might be flat. Hey, your engine doesn't sound right. Hey, you might need an oil change. Hey, your car's actually like totally dying over here.
Yeah.
We need to get you in something new.
Yeah.
Right? Those types of interactions that you get to have with these people, they are so readily available in this space. Because a lot of people go to the grocery store and they're like, how do I be a witness for Jesus here? They go to the gym. How do I be a witness for Jesus here? And like those opportunities are there too.
Yeah.
But in a place like Two Lines and a place like Creatives Philly, it's like a platter has been laid out in front of you.
Oh yeah.
And you get to share the appetizer together and talk about the appetizer, which is Jesus. Like it's literally right in front of everybody all night long.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just got to capitalize on the conversation to be a witness.
Yeah.
And I will say, there is this like false reality that I know I had to get over even in hosting an event like this, where it's like, well, if we talk too much about Jesus, people might run away. Or if I say it like this, or if I say it like that, I have to be careful. Where I remember going to then a space that's not run by Christians and just doing my Christian poem and people being like, oh my gosh, I needed that. Thank you. Or, whoa, that's so cool. Or not stoning me. Like, I just think there's this fear that we get in our heads of we have to water down who we are. It's not like you have to take them to the Romans road while you're doing your poetry, but you can share the love of Christ in the ways that God has worked it out in you.
That's big.
And just be open to what he's going to do. Like, we had a guy that has been coming since January, and it just started of, hey man, I loved your piece. And then it was, hey, I'd love to hang out.
Yes.
Found out we lived in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
Hey, do you want to come over? Comes over. He's like, hey, I'm looking for a church. And now he's a member at my church and comes every week. And it's just like, Chigga, shout out, we love you, man.
Yes.
He's also comes to Two Lines all the time now. So now someone who didn't always feel connected in certain areas now feels connected just because I was able to say, hey man, I love your piece, and and just give somebody something that they don't usually get. And it's a listening ear, and it's someone to say, I see you, you're known, you're loved, and I want to be in relationship with you.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
So good. Yeah, it's like Sergine's set into the question time. It's like such a layup.
Yep.
You know, it's like everything you've just heard for the last 15 minutes has been dripping with kingdom values, kingdom concepts,
Yes.
gospel presentation, naming Jesus as the way.
Yeah.
And not just in a like, in the beginning, God created everything, right? Like those pieces are good too. I have those, right? They're fine. But in this setting, it's like doing it in a way where you're like, you're dropping breadcrumbs along the path and people are picking up and they're like, oh, okay. And then the next one's like a piece of bread and they're like, oh, okay. And then by the end, they got the loaf of bread. And it's like, oh, what do I do with this? This is awesome. But they're like, their palate has been made like right to go that deep in that conversation.
Yes.
And to me, as like an evangelist, ministry kind of person that wants to do the work of the evangelist, like it's a layup. It's an absolute layup
Yes.
to have a conversation at the end of your set. Like it's there, right? And so I remember even having a conversation with a young woman that she's a photographer. She was just like in the space, super random, not a poet, was connected with the Ride Free peeps. And she was just there and she was like, this is kind of crazy. And we started talking about different things. And I'm getting to share like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. So is he. So is he. So is she. So is her.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Like as we're talking, because she's like, are you guys like Christians or something? And it's like, yeah. So, and he is too. And he is too. And she's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like we just try to love people. You know, we don't want anybody to feel like they can't, you know, have a voice in this space. Because, you know, a lot of times churches have been notorious of like, you can't say anything if it doesn't align with our doctrine or theological premise.
Heavy.
And that's fine for church.
Yeah.
Open mic. Let's create third space. Let's trust that we can, like Paul, walk into Athens and say, actually, the unknown God has a name.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yes.
we know him.
Yes.
And we're going to articulate what we know about him.
Yes.
Using the culture
Yeah.
to be able to articulate truth about who Jesus is and what he's done in our lives.
Heavy.
And especially in today's day and age, like our story, everybody's got a story and you have to respect each other's story. So if I'm going to respect your story, you're going to respect my story. I'm just not the main character.
Yep.
So you're going to have to find out
Heavy.
that it's about somebody else, you know?
Yeah. And if you think about it from like an apologetic
I was
standpoint,
just about to think about
people talk about stepping stones. Like, what is a stepping stone getting somebody to the gospel? And when you have somebody coming up on a mic talking about love, talking about loneliness, talking about pain, talking about family struggle, we're just walking across the creek at that point. There's so many stepping stones
Yes.
that are right there to lead somebody into living water.
Yeah.
It's just right there, and just come out with us, man, please. Like I will give you a free ticket, like just so you can see what we're talking about, because God is good.
Yeah.
And he's doing something here, and we don't know exactly like what is going on. We just know we have to be here every month, and that's what we're called to do.
Yep.
Sure.
Every second Friday, 2 lines.
Yep.
Currently at the Ride Free Studios in Kensington, right off Allegheny.
Yeah.
I think it's 1952.
1952 East
East
Allegheny.
Look at that. That's a memory right there.
That's good.
You have a couple of spots in the parking lot. Let's not lie to the people.
We'll save one for you.
Yeah, right. But no, it is. It's a great spot, and it's been an amazing journey to watch. And we have wanted to do like a 2-line episodes here on Time Is Right because it's such a big part of our community and this Right Poetry squad that's been developed over time. But we thought, what better date to do an episode about than the one that you featured on, Sergine. So
Sure.
April 14th, 2023 was a beautiful night, and something we will all take from it and apply to our future from all of it. Any final thoughts just about your set, Sergine, before we wrap up?
I guess what I would say is that one of the things I appreciated just about being featured at 2 lines was that I felt like people were definitely digesting what I had to say because it was a lot. But like my intention is to be edifying. And I believe that's part of my calling when it comes to being a spoken word artist, however you want, a poet, right? And the reasons for my faith or the reasons for the faith and what that communicates to people who don't know, people who aren't aware, right? Like giving practical and relatable points and like apologetics, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think doing that and then watching the community continue to facilitate like the connection and the authenticity is like a beautiful thing to watch. And that's really what I appreciated more than anything.
So good.
Yeah. So thank y'all
good.
for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Shout
beautiful.
out to my squad.
Make sure you guys check it out. As Greg said, 2 lines every second Friday. And yeah, what do you have, Greg?
Oh, I know we were going to talk about Daniel Void Banks.
Oh, yeah.
So after the show,
Post show.
post 2 lines, we went out to Nifty 50s.
Shout out to Nifties.
Shout out. Thank y'all for taking us so late. And just chopped it up. And it was a bunch of us just hanging out. And I think Daniel was like, yeah, I don't really like get to do this. Like just hang around with a bunch of people, grab some food late night and just talk.
Hold on. It's not that we just gather together, we grab food and talk. That's not what happens when the 10 of us are together.
That's true.
We are jumping on tables. We're screaming.
Oh gosh.
We're making references to each other's poems to put people on blast.
Father, here I am.
Father,
again.
here I am again every other minute. And just like it is reckless.
Yeah,
Terrible.
it's pretty
And
chaotic.
It's chaotic.
That's awesome.
And he was in the middle of the chaos with his like huge, like just his eyes all the way open. Like, what am I in? Like, who are these people? So it wasn't just like going out to eat. It was this level of
I ain't gonna lie, we're
absurdity.
Wild. Yeah. We're wild. We're like kick your shoes off, like
Yes.
just like relax.
Come as you are.
Put the
type
shoe
of
on the
level.
table. Wow.
Like yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I guess I do it so much I don't even think about it's like crazy anymore. I just think that's what we do. Like we just kind of walk into a space and just joke and laugh and like we talk about core values of like an organization. Like one of our like unofficial core values of 2 lines is laughter, fun, like and I don't mean that as a joke. Like
No, it's fine.
we live in a city where it is really hard out here. And the ability to come into a space and just laugh, that's something different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was good. But yeah, he came and I think it was just a beautiful thing to be, because in that setting, right, it's almost like 9-on-1, right? Like in a lot of settings when we go into, other people's events, you're trying to do ministry, it's like 100 against you.
Yeah.
And it's not against, because we understand God is not far from any of us. Right in that same passage with Paul in Athens, he says like he sets up our boundaries.
Facts.
And he does that so that we'll seek him and find him, though he is not far.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't believe that people are far from God.
Yeah.
We believe Jesus is knocking on the door of hearts. And we're just trying to get them to say, hey, I think somebody's at the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
That's good.
you want to go unlock that?
That's
and
good.
check and see who that
That's a
is?
good one.
That's
Right?
good.
That's a good
Come
word
on.
right there. I'm going to keep
He's
that.
at the
Hold
door.
on.
I'm going to keep that.
Put it
Thank you,
back.
Lord. Thank
If
you,
you're on
Lord.
this mic right now, you
Play
listen
that
to this podcast, you in the car, you going to work, he's at the door, all right?
He's at
Open
the
it
door.
up.
Amen.
Open it up,
He's
let him
near.
in.
He's near. It's good.
Oh yeah.
But it's like in those settings, right? Even when it's us 4 and we're out together, we're doing it, it's still like 4 on 100.
Yeah.
Or there might be a few others with us that we found out are there that we get to uncover, right?
Yeah.
And now it's 6 on 94 or whatever.
For sure.
But then you go to the diner
Ah.
and it's like actually 9 on 1 flipped the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this dude, like, I'm just sitting there, like, laughing with the Lord, like, just thinking, like, what is he getting right now?
Yes.
Like, is he just sitting in this room with 9 knuckleheads who literally love Jesus with everything we have and are goofy and vivacious and outgoing and care deeply about one another?
Facts.
That are operating and functioning in our personalities,
Yes.
both like high energy personalities and AVGs, I'm about to go to sleep personalities, right? And it's all good. like it's all beautiful because we love one another. Like it's not like you need to change and be like us.
Facts.
We just tease you about being you, right? And but in that playful spirit, it's like my man is sitting over here watching it, you know, and you're like, what is happening here? So I don't know if anything came of that, but I felt like it was super, super cool.
So one thing that I'll say is this ability that we have to be authentically ourselves and have like real wholesome fun, and then be able to switch over to this is a moment to, I don't want to use the word interrogate, but like really ask the person, where are they coming from? What is their background?
Yep.
It was Apollos. I was watching him. He actually was like, hey, like, what's your faith background? Like, how do you know about all of these things that are biblical? And just like really giving him that opportunity to speak on what he knows and how he's come to know it. And I love seeing that. It's so special.
Shout out Apollos, unofficial Two Lines member, always there, bringing the vibes. We love him.
And he never knows that he's sitting right next to the features. Crazy.
Like every time.
It's hysterical.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's how like I think even that Bonnie from Alpha at the Movement Day thing, that woman talks about the art of asking questions.
Yep.
Yes.
And that is Derek Mellaby. Shout out to Derek Mellaby. He mentored me in this without even trying, just by watching him do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was the best question asker I ever met. And it kind of changed things for me. There was like, oh, if you just ask people questions,
Yes.
you can do more effective ministry than a lot of people writing the best sermons in America can do.
Exactly.
Because you're just asking questions. You're asking, why do you think that? Where's that coming from?
Yes.
How'd that happen?
Yes.
What's beneath that?
Yes.
And like in some ways people are like, that's what counselors are for. Sure. But in that setting, it's also like a whole different level than friendship around a table, because it doesn't feel like, oh, it's just your job to do this. It's like, wait, this person cares about me.
Yes.
Where does that care come from?
Yes.
I was thinking it comes more as more inquisitive than it does interrogative, right?
Yes.
So I'm asking you questions to get to know you, to see where you are, why you think the way you think, why you feel the way you feel, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm showing some level of compassion by even asking, because I'm trying to understand you, as opposed to just talking at you, quoting scriptures and doing certain, like expressing and explaining certain things to you and dynamics that you have no concept of. And why should you even care? Because at the end of the day, if I don't feel like I'm being seen, as Greg has pointed out earlier, like, or loved or valued, then all of that is just like, you know, that you're missing the mark.
It's real. I feel like we could pull back layers on this onion for a while. Thank you for this conversation. I know it was about Sergine and Two Lines feature April 14th, but it feels like it went a lot of different directions, and hopefully you as a listener got something out of it. Thank you for tuning in today to today's episode. However you found this, please know that you are loved by us. We're very thankful for your ear. We hope that this has blessed you in some way. A lot of you who listen to this podcast give to support Ripe Creatives. Your generosity is a part of what enables us to even do Two Lines, right? So my responsibilities and roles to help mentor and add value and vision to Two Lines, that's only possible because of the people who partner with Ripe Creatives to allow me to do this full time.
Heavy.
And so thank you for partnering with us. Your generosity in some ways blesses Two Lines even. And so as we share this episode, we're saying thank you to you and your generosity for allowing this whole ecosystem that we've built here in Philly through the arts for ministry to exist. That's because of you giving to us and allowing us to do this work together. If you're here and you're listening to this podcast as an attendee of Two Lines, or a fan of Sergine's, or a friend of Greg's or AVG's, or you just stumbled upon it because you found out the word ripe has some deep meaning to it or something. Thank you for listening, and we would highly encourage you jump on our website, ripecreatives.com, and click on our website, look at what we're about, hit the give button, consider partnering with us so that we can continue to do great things in the city of Philadelphia and beyond, like Two Lines. So we appreciate you guys a million times over, and until next time, y'all, stay right.